One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's special live Tuesday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. As you know, sometimes I like to go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Even though my show airs 6 days a week, I'm live 4 of them. Sometimes I like to go live on a Tuesday or Thursday if I have a few things that I want to talk about. And there's a few subjects that I wanted to cover the other day and I didn't get a chance to when I had Joe and Ken on. And I was able to get Joe to hang out and do an extra hour tonight with me to go over a few things. And Joe's been gracious enough to do that. Thank you, Joe, for
hey, no sweat, buddy.
Doing hour 3. I appreciate that. And ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned because after I get off with Joe here and we're done with the hour for the special hour broadcast here on Down the Rabbit Hole, I'm going to be hanging out with Mr. Ryan Brooks for a little while on the Sound of Freedom. So after he's on for 3. So for another
it's like a relay race, dude. You know, it's kind of like handing off the torch to you, and then you'll go on Ryan's and hand it off to him.
Right, and then so you get another 4 hours of awesome live radio broadcasting here on the Orion Talk Radio Network, so don't go anywhere. Now, what are the topics I want to cover tonight? A few things, including I want to take Danny Glover to the Woodshed, and Mr. Ben Swann is going to help us. I'm going to play an audio clip from him, and then I want to get Joe's opinion on it, and then I'll give mine, but I really want Joe's because I know this will fire him up. But before that, before it gets too late, I want to give a shout-out to somebody who still may be awake and listening to me. I had the chance, Joe. Remember, I told you that I had the opportunity recently to make the acquaintance of a very intelligent young lady and her mom who are very awake and aware of what's going on. And this young lady does her own radio broadcast, and it's called Crystal Light Kids Radio. And her name is Natalie Marie-Hart. Well, I had the chance to talk to her and her mom today for about 5.5, almost 6 hours. And she interviewed me, and stay tuned. You have to go check her YouTube channels out. Again, it's called Crystal Light Kids Radio. And when she airs the interview, she's going to let me know, and I'll put it up in my archives as well. But she was such a well-spoken and intelligent young lady and I was so impressed that I actually interviewed her for the broadcast, and I'll be airing that sometime within the next few weeks. I gotta edit it up, and I have a ton of other interviews I have to get to edit up and get together for everybody. So, and Natalie knows that she's really gracious about it. But I was very impressed with her. And when you guys hear what she has to say and you hear her talk, you're gonna be very impressed. She's an amazing young lady to say, to say the least. And she's only 12, dude. I was just blown away. I was like, oh my God. First of all, when I first found out about her, as I told you, I checked it. I was like, okay, is this real or not? I checked it out, and I'm like, oh my God. Okay, there's actually a 12-year-old kid that does a really good radio broadcast, apparently, because she's interviewed Jim Mars, and she interviewed Rosa Corey about Agenda 21. When I was 12, I wasn't worried about Agenda 21. I was worried about my moped or my skateboard or my BMX. So it gives me hope. And sitting, chatting with her, off air, not during doing the interview in itself, but then chatting with her like off air and chatting with her mother. Her mom's got a good head on her shoulders, and so does she. Natalie, the 12-year-old, the host of the radio show, has a really amazing head on her shoulder. So there is still hope, ladies and gentlemen. There still are good kids out there. And Joe, didn't you interview some kid that's like, he's like 14 or 15, and he knows more about politics than most?
Yeah, my friend Dan in New Hampshire. Yeah, he's a good kid and homeschooled, and of course, they're just not. They're all over the place, guys. That's the interesting thing is that, yeah, even here locally, I teach homeschool kids the Constitution and government, and we talk New World Order, all that kind of stuff, and they eat it up. Heck, one of my students knows more about the Masons than I do. I was just blown away at some of the things and the Illuminati. Oh man, they just eat it up. They eat it up.
And so they have a fresh perspective on it, dude.
Oh, yeah, but they're just voracious for it, which is great, And that's the kind of thing that you want to instill. You don't want this stuff to be dull. So teach them the stuff that they need to know, that they want to know. And, I mean, they just eat it all up. So that was great. And, of course, I gave a shout-out to one of my students tonight because of all the hard work they're doing to understand. And they're genuinely concerned about the state of this country and where things are headed, and the fact that they're not going to be inheriting an all too nice place if we keep going down the road we're going.
We need to change things up. We need to change the way the youth of today thinks, because they're not even taught to think. They're just taught to repeat. They're taught to learn and memorize and then regurgitate what they've been taught to memorize. And I got to tell you, dude, this kid was a breath of fresh air. I was completely blown away. So there is hope. And, her goal, basically in a nutshell, she told me, was to bridge that gap of between information and her generation, and bring them back to, starting to be a little more intelligent again. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have kids, between, that are, well, let's say they're old enough between the ages of like 7 and 15, 16, have them listen to her broadcast. It's called Crystal Light Kids Radio. Just Google it. It's the best way you can find it. Crystal Light Kids Radio. Bring you to her website, and then you can see all her interviews and stuff from there. Maybe listening to someone her age will give them, maybe it'll be easier for them to swallow the information and absorb it, as opposed to listening to some adult. Because when I was a kid, adults could have told me gold was under my bed if I just looked, and I wouldn't look just to be a spiteful little idiot. You know what I mean? Because it was an adult telling me. So maybe if it comes from a kid, maybe it'll be easier. And I'm not saying anybody's kids are like that or your kids are an idiot. I'm just saying children are children and kids can be kids. And perhaps a kid bringing this information across would be more effective than an adult. Because, again, it's like Charlie Brown. What do you hear what do kids usually hear when they hear an adult? Wah, 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 wah. Exactly. So kudos to her. Very well done, her radio show, and just want to give her a big shout out. She's a very amazing young lady, and she has a huge, bright future ahead of her. So very well done, Natalie. And check her radio show out, Crystal Light Kids Radio, and I'll be airing the interview with her coming soon, so stay tuned for that. All right, Joe. It's time to... it's that time. It's time to take somebody to the woodshed, and today's guest to go to the woodshed would be Mr. Danny Glover.
Man, and I liked him so much in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, I liked the comment at the end of 2 anyway, when the guy's like, diplomatic immunity, and Danny Glover pulls out his .38, and he cocks the hammer back, and he hits him right in the forehead, and he's like, your immunity's been revoked, or whatever the hell he says. He says, it was a much better tagline when he said,
oh, yeah.
He didn't ruin it like I did, but that's okay. Danny Glover ruined himself. Did you see what he recently said when he...
No, enlighten me, will you?
Oh, God. He was speaking to a bunch of college students, and he told them that the basis of the Second Amendment was racist. He said the reason the Second Amendment came about, the genesis of it, he says, was slave owners afraid of slaves and afraid of slave uprisings and afraid of Indian and Native uprisings is what brought about the Second Amendment. And I was like, dude, you couldn't be more factually incorrect if you tried. But he didn't even offer any historical reference or anything to back it up. He says it as if it's fact and just moves on. And nobody questions it either. See, that's the problem. You're in an institution of learning, and people are so bedazzled by Danny Glover and his star status that they don't even question it. I'm gonna play this clip from Ben Swann. You're gonna get a chance to hear Glover put his foot in his mouth. You're gonna hear Ben Swann school him. It's only about 4.5 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. He's good at what he does. He gets this all done in a nutshell. So you're gonna hear Glover. You're gonna hear Ben Swann school him, and then I want Joe's opinion on this. Here we go. Check this out.
The 66-year-old Glover was speaking to students at Texas A&M University, and that was where he told students that the Second Amendment was actually crafted by the founders in order to protect slave owners from uprisings. Here's what he said.
The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. I don't know if people know the genesis of the right to bear arms. The Second Amendment comes from the right to protect, for settlers to protect themselves from slave revolts and from uprising by Native Americans. So a revolt from people who were stolen from their land, or a revolt from people who the land was stolen from. That's what the genesis of the Second Amendment is.
So is that statement true? Well, no. There is no mention, as you probably know, in the Second Amendment of slave owners, of slaves, of people of color. In fact, there is no historical evidence whatsoever to what Danny Glover said. Not only that, but Glover himself didn't bother to offer any historical evidence to back up his claim. But as long as we're on the subject, there is a lot to say about history, guns, and gun control when it comes to minorities. You see, as for gun control, there is a racist history that goes back into the 1700s and predates the founding of America. 1751, the French Black Code required Louisiana colonists to stop any blacks and, if necessary, beat any black carrying any potential weapon, even a cane. After Nat Turner's rebellion in 1831, Virginia's response was to prohibit free blacks from, quote, keeping or carrying any firearm of any kind, any military weapon, or any powder or lead. In fact, if you're honest with yourself and you go back and look at historical documents, the facts are pretty simple. From the Revolutionary period all the way until the Civil Rights period, nearly every single gun control law that has been enacted across the nation has been done so to disarm blacks and Hispanics. Take, for instance, a law in 1840 in North Carolina that if any free person of color shall wear or carry about his or her person or keep in his or her house any shotgun, musket, rifle, pistol, sword, dagger, or bowie knife, unless he or she shall have obtained a license therefore from the Court of Pleas and Quarter Sessions of his or her county within 1 year preceding the wearing, keeping, or carrying therefore, he or she shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and may be indicted therefore. Laws like that were passed all across the nation, again, from the Revolutionary period all the way until the Civil Rights period. Those laws were not extended to white Americans, only to people of color. And that, by the way, historical fact did not escape an Ohio judge who in 1920 ruled on a case of an Hispanic man of Mexican descent who was convicted of having a handgun while asleep in his own bed. But the dissenting Ohio judge wrote this. He said that laws in Alabama, Georgia, Arkansas, Kentucky, New York, and Ohio had been designed, quote, for a decisive purpose to entirely disarm blacks and Hispanics. So what you need to know here is that what Danny Glover said is not only untrue, it's historically the converse of what is true. You see, the Second Amendment has no restriction in it. It does not restrict anyone from having a weapon or carrying a firearm based on color, on creed, even on gender. No, the Second Amendment only places a prohibition on one group, the federal government, explaining that the government of this nation shall not try to restrict people from keeping and bearing arms. And that is full disclosure.
And that is the truth.
And that is an ass whooping.
Right, exactly. In 4 minutes, he just took Danny Glover to the woodshed.
He just no. The hell with the woodshed, dude. That was atomic wedgie time. He pulled his underwear up and over his head.
Talk about a dumbass statement.
What an idiot, dude. What the... just out of curiosity, what the hell does Genesis have to do with anything Second Amendment? Well, it's the genesis of it. What? What? Genesis, you say? I didn't know there was a genesis of anything like that, you know? So, okay, Danny.
He's getting all biblical, is what he's doing.
He's getting all 66 years old to senile.
He is, dude. He's losing it.
It's unbelievable.
And you know what? I don't think he's losing it. Glover, I don't think he's losing it. I think he's pushing an agenda. I mean,
no, you know what he reminds me of? You know what he reminds me of, dude?
Who?
You remember in Living Color and the philosopher in jail? What the heck? I can't remember what his name was, but he was the one that was on there. It was Jamie Foxx, I think it was, or one of the Fox brothers, that was sitting in the jail cell and he was philosophizing.
I know who you're talking.
Yeah, and I believe it was the Philosophizer Massengill that said one time, you know, it's like that, and that's what this is reminding me of. It was the genesis of the Second Amendment, you see. It's like the genesis of what? And then, yes, to protect the slave owners from the slaves. Where in the Second Amendment do you see anything about blacks or slaves or to protect the white folk?
Because it's this myth that the founders of this country that the white people love to talk about, and you know I'm when I'm saying this as a propagandist like Jesse Jackson or this idiot. Okay, the white people, they don't tell you the Constitution. I don't see freeing black people in there. Well, actually, if you actually talked the real history and were told the truth, maybe you're ignorant yourself and you don't know this. So I mean that's a possibility. Many of them are ignorant, but the truth is, people like Jefferson wanted to abolish slavery in the Constitution. They wanted it written in there. But they knew that, it came down to this. The southern colonies wouldn't have fought against England if that were the case. Okay? And you could say what you will, but at the time, they needed a cohesive effort to take on the British. Okay? I don't know if many people realize this, but my father does. He's a smart guy. Okay, the Kentucky long rifles are one of the reasons we won the Revolutionary War. Our snipers. That's where our modern-day snipers come from, were the Kentucky long rifles. Because those guys would sit out and they would take aim at the officers. Okay, this is... And the term sniper actually comes from, they were bird hunters. And then we fought unconventionally. We didn't line up like a bunch. Well, I mean, we did to a certain extent, but after a while, they were like, maybe lining up like a bunch of morons in front of each other and hurling lead isn't the smartest way of battling. And the reason, by the way, that they had to line up like that was because there was no rifling in the barrels, and the weapons were so inaccurate. The only way to have a battle was lead against lead. That's why in the movie The Patriot, the militia was freaking out when he's like, I need you to fire 2 rounds. And they're like, what? Because while you're standing there reloading, the enemy is taking aim, getting ready to fire. Not fun.
You ever been snipe hunting?
No. I know it's not easy because I know it's like grouse hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I know grouse, man, you even breathe in the wrong direction and those birds will come out of nowhere. You got to be fast. That's why people skeet shoot a lot to practice bird hunting. But I digress. The Second Amendment was not about keeping white people free from Indians and pissed off slaves. And I shouldn't even call them Indians again. I have to slap myself. Natives. And it wasn't to keep them, the pissed natives or the pissed off black people away from them. Come on. That's not accurate at all. In fact, like Ben Swann said, the Second Amendment doesn't see color. It doesn't care if you're black, white, red, purple with polka dots. Does not mean you could be a Martian. If you're a citizen, then guess what? The Second Amendment applies to you. And that means that, and technically, the document really doesn't say that we can do it, right? It doesn't give us the permission to do it. The document just enumerates the right of self-defense and the right to defend yourself from a tyrannical form of government, which is nothing more than control. Government broken down into two words. The two words, its root form, break it down. It's Latin, verb and a noun. Okay, govern and ment. Ment meaning mentis or man, govern meaning to control. So literally to control, and ment also means mind. So it's man or mind. So to control the mind. Government. That's what it literally means. Mind control. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you're all taking notes. Thank you.
No, so, I'm totally entranced right now.
Danny Glover to the woodshed. Oh, God. Just Ben Swann, dude, I got to say, that guy knows how to put facts together.
Oh, he lays a gauntlet down, dude, every time.
I would love to see anybody. I would love to see Piers Morgan debate this guy. Seriously.
Me too. I wonder if that's been offered up.
It needs to be. Instead of getting everybody else and Jones and all these other people, no. Have him debate. I mean, Ben Shapiro was a great interview when Shapiro handed him the Constitution on TV. That was just awesome. And then he told them he was standing on the bodies of dead children. Epic. Okay, but I would love to see Ben Swann debate him on anything. Would it really be a debate, though? Because he would just be, Piers has that same talking point, he has certain crime statistics he likes. And then his favorites, what type of weapon was used at Sandy Hook? Well, actually, Piers, apparently, according to the MSNBC and other mainstream outlets, the AR-15 was in the trunk, and it was 4 pistols that were used. Oh, that's right. That doesn't fit the narrative. So afterwards, you guys changed it to the AR-15. That's right. And he shot through the front of the school with the AR-15, too, because, AR-15s, you could shoot through schools with them assault rifles. Isn't that what one of the politicians said when he was a congressman?
Oh, yeah.
That's what assault rifles can do. You can shoot through the front of a school with it. Really? Those schools are supposed to have bulletproof doors, aren't they? Isn't that part of the school being able to go on lockdown? Which it was at the time that the kid got there. So how did he get in? Oh, that's right. He shot his way through bulletproof doors and brick. Right. With 223 and 30-round magazines. Right. At semi-auto. So he was sitting there for 25 minutes going pop, 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 eject, put a new magazine, pop, 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 pop. Nobody could have tackled him while he was trying to enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Nobody could have run him over with a car.
Nope.
Right? It just doesn't make sense, dude. I'm sorry. Anybody that has half their brains about them, and it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It could have happened, and they just completely changed the narrative and made it whatever to fit their own thing. Maybe it was fake. All I know is there's a lot of red flags about it and things that don't add up. And now we have I guess you could call it Waco Part 2, Joe. I don't know if you saw while you were on air, but apparently they cornered this dude, Dorner, out in California. And I guess they got him in a cabin. And firefight ensued. I guess he shot a couple of the cops. One of them died. And I guess according to, and people are showing the still shots, they said it shows that he was trying to get out, and then I guess they forced him back into the house and burned it to the ground. Where have I seen that tactic before? We'll get into that and more on the other side of the break because I can hear it sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Now, Joe, conflicting reports right now, because this is live as we're talking here at 11:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on February 12th, 2013, the final half hour of February 12th, 2013. And right on the front of Fox News, you have right at the top, breaking news, LAPD says a body has not been found in burned out cabin following gunfight with suspect believed to be ex-cop. And then you scroll down.
Which is contrary to what Drudge Report and everybody else is saying, that he was burned alive.
Right, and then when you scroll down, it says underneath, there's a picture of, says, Obama urges, blah, 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 his State of the Union speech, a couple other articles. And then there's a picture of Dorner, and it says, urgent, charred body, maybe fugitive ex-LAPD cop. Okay, so which is it? Is the charred body the cop, or is there not a charred body at all? Because above it says breaking news: LAPD says a body has not been found in the burned out cabin. So which is it?
That's a good question. I wish they'd get their story straight for once. This is getting ridiculous.
And then they wonder why people question the mainstream media narrative about things and say things like, oh, it's fake. Oh, it's BS. Oh, they didn't kill him. Oh, it's a psyop. Oh, this, oh, that. And people go, oh, you crazy conspiracy theorists. Well, you wonder what fuels such thought. And there's nothing wrong with people thinking that way. At least they're thinking outside the box and trying to come up with an answer as to what happened. But, people wouldn't have to go to that extent if you weren't so shady about details and you would just tell people the truth. Why did they make all the news helicopters go away in the middle of the firefight? Why? We don't want to glorify this. Really? Really? I'm willing to bet for the next 2 weeks you're going to have hero cops of gunfight with Dorner. Waco Part 2. Tune in 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on CBS exclusively. Blech.
Thanks, man. I got bile in my throat now.
I know. Makes sure just the thought of the I can just see the TV guide promotion for the made-for-TV movie about this in 6 months. For real. Maybe they'll have LL Cool J play Dorner because he looks like him.
Oh, that'd be cool. I was thinking it was LL Cool J, that it was like crisis actors.
Oh, could be. You never know.
They just went kind of high end on this one and got LL Cool J.
Oh, look. Here you go. Breaking news at the top of CNN. LAPD's Andrew Smith contradicts earlier report that a body was found in cabin that burned in hunt for Christopher Dorner. Dun, dun, dun. You mean the media jumped the gun again? Don't know. You see, again, and no, I guess this if there's no body found, that means that he quite possibly could have somehow Rambo'd it out of there, escaped, whatever, gotten out. And if that means the manhunt is still on, does that mean that innocent people are going to be continuing to get shot out in L.A. and they should be worried about it? Because that really is, I would say, the number one concern. I wouldn't be worried about people getting shot by Christopher Dorner in L.A. I would be worried if I lived in L.A. about getting shot by the police because they apparently are shooting anything and everything that moves that they think is Christopher Dorner. And I got to tell you what, fear-based shooting, these guys do not have down pat. Like, they don't have any control of themselves when they're amped up. If you look at the patterns of all the shootings, if you look at the bullet patterns and you look out, just look at the group. There is no grouping. None. Look at when they shot that pickup truck up with the 2 ladies inside of it that were delivering newspapers. They not only hit the truck, but they hit the houses beyond the truck. How is that acceptable? And I'm going to tell you what.
What do you mean? Hey, collateral damage, man.
Nobody gets held accountable for that.
Friendly fire.
How much are you willing to bet that not one LAPD officer gets held accountable for that? They'll write it off as acceptable.
Acceptable losses, dude. That's what it is. It's kind of like the American Journal of Medicine had this interesting piece not too long ago about this almost like it was a peer-reviewed article on how they should make vaccine trials compulsory. And why? Because it's for the greater good, and that any side effects endured are deemed acceptable losses for the greater good of society. And now this is just one report. This is just one example of many where this stuff's just out of control.
Yeah, and see, they're going to use what they'll do is they'll use
acceptable losses.
Ken just messaged me, made me chuckle. He just messaged me on Skype. It says LL Cool J had better watch out. Yeah, you're right. He leaves his house to try to pick his newspaper up in the morning. The Beverly Hills Police Department might try to come, shoot him or arrest him or whatever. It's just ridiculous, man. Look, I understand, that they're afraid or whatever, but part of the reason that those cops are so amped up, there's no justification for them shooting random innocent people at all whatsoever. That means that there wasn't even a thing of we're going to try to negotiate with them. And I don't want to hear anybody go, well, I wouldn't do that. Well, that's good. You're also not a professional quote unquote professional police officer who wears and a badge and who swore an oath to be above that and be able to control his emotions. Because if a cop loses it and just starts shooting people randomly in the street, say they caught Dorner and some cop shoots him in the head, just like how, like in the end of Seven when Brad Pitt's character loses it and shoots the dude in the head because he killed his wife. The guy wanted him to do that because he knew that was gonna ruin his life. It was going to ruin his career, right? Okay. Well, nowadays you can shoot a perp in the head and it's no big deal. It's the guy was resisting because he farted while I had him in his handcuffs, so I blew his brains out. Seriously, that's what it gets to. So there's no look. I understand that these guys he killed innocent people and this and that. Again, I'm not justifying what the guy did. I think I think if he had a legitimate gripe, he certainly torpedoed his own argument as soon as he shot innocent people. Okay. It didn't help your argument at all. I can also understand the flip side, that what pushed him to it, because I know how I understand how things are, and I'm sure they probably railroaded this guy. So they created the monster, okay? The best way to go about dealing with it wouldn't be, they'll probably just execute this dude, however, do whatever they got to do, whatever he's doing, and they'll probably just execute him. And then once he's dead, they can change the narrative however they want. And this so-called investigation into what he really complained about will go nowhere. And that's a problem, because that is what created this issue of him going out and doing this. Him doing this isn't really the issue. It's going to be made the issue. The media is making sure of that. The LAPD is making sure of that. But that's not really the issue, is it? What drove this guy to snap and go off the deep end? It wasn't his service in the military. Let's get over that garbage, okay? What made him snap? What does he say in his own words? He says it. It was this problem he had with the LAPD, and then apparently that wrecked his Navy career. So who knows? Maybe somebody in the LAPD reached out afterwards and, sent his command in the Navy something, and he got screwed. The point is, they created the monster. So rather than treat the symptom of the problem, which is him running around killing, the cops and their families and stuff, which is shouldn't be killed. First of all, if you have a beef with somebody, it's supposed to be the old way of things was you versus the person you got a beef with, not you versus their family. That's the chicken shit way of doing things. I have no use for people that do things like that, okay? But even going out and taking them out with violence isn't gonna it doesn't. I know it makes some people go, yeah, it justifies it, but honestly it nullifies the argument now. Any legitimate argument he had is nullified because you resorted to violence, and any higher moral ground you may have had, gone.
When he got fired, he lost his security clearance.
Is that what did it?
He was in intelligence. He was in intelligence, and he lost his security clearance and got kicked out. And so he couldn't do his job anymore. And the issue is you have these big police departments are some of the most corrupt entities in this country. Look at Los Angeles. Look at Ray Kelly of New York City. Do we need to go any farther than that?
Oh, well, dude, if you want to look for corruption, just look at him and look at the LAPD.
Gutter slime, dude. That's what they are, gutter slime. And it's a shame that these law enforcement officers that do the job that they do just totally go, hook, line, and sinker with these people. We need to do these random on the street pat downs. No, you don't. And no, we don't. No, well, but see, that's what here's what I find. Now, I'm waiting to see what happens after. Now that if he's dead, right? Because you don't know now. Now they're saying, well, there isn't a body. So let's say that there isn't a body and somehow dude got out of there, right? And this continues. Then that'll just be, a continuing, ongoing movie saga. But let's say this is over. This is it. It's finalized. It's done. What narrative are they going to spin after this? Is it going to be, are they going to say, look, Dorner even said in his own manifesto that if people didn't have access to assault weapons, then this would never have happened. Really? So you wouldn't have run around and perhaps maybe run people over when they were off duty in your car?
or you couldn't have Texas Chainsaw Massacred them or stabbed them with a butcher knife. I mean, there's a bazillion other ways he could have done it. So I know when people say, wow, it's really shady that he took aim at a few things like that. I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know if this is honestly. It doesn't look to me. It doesn't look like a staged event. This thing looks like they're really scared. Just by the way,
it looks like it's a real deal.
Just the random way that they're freaking out and shooting everybody shows you how they're going to react when it hits the fan. Okay, that shows you they don't care. They're not there for your protection. If they were, they wouldn't be.
No, they're there for their protection. Yeah, they're there for their protection. That's what they're out for. And if this guy did get away, it just shows the complete and utter ineptitude of that SWAT team and the police force. I mean, you got the guy holed up in a cabin. You can't surround the damn thing and can't see this guy get out? Are you freaking kidding me? With all the advance warning and all the time that guy was holed up in there? Unbelievable. I mean, let me tell you something. If he got out, I'd be surprised because they have drones and stuff hovering above him. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Unless this guy is like the Invisible Man and doesn't give off a heat signature, I don't see him getting out of that house.
Hey, perhaps she was wearing his tinfoil hat.
Well, maybe, perhaps there was a secret. Perhaps he chose that house because there was a secret underground tunnel.
It could be that because remember, I mean, all this happened in 2008. I mean, this could have been
that house. You never know. He could have
He could have chose a house. He could have dug a tunnel. He could have done anything. You never know what the heck is going on here.
Well, look, people to say that couldn't be a possibility. It could be. I mean, I'm not saying it is. It could be, but he probably broke into someone's house or whatever, and then.
I know, sure, but I mean, it's always fun to.
Think the homeowner's pissed that they burned their house down?
Oh, dude, I would be pissed.
The homeowner's telling the SWAT team, "Look, man. You got to break the windows and shoot the guy inside. That's fine, okay? You can clean up the blood later. We'll have one, cut that section of floor up. Don't burn the damn house down." The guy goes to have a cigarette and goes, "What the hell did I tell you?"
Yeah, I know, man. Oh, man. And it's a lady that actually owns a cabin. It's like a rental. You know what I mean? And it was vacant at the time. So the story goes, it was vacant at the time. There was no electricity, cable, telephone, anything like that. No service for at the cabin at that particular time, and that was just before it got lit on fire. so I was like,
what's the deal? They found him. How'd they find him in the cabin supposedly? Because I didn't,
I heard that he, according to Drudge Report, he burned alive. But Fox News and CNN are both saying that may not be the case. That he may have got away. Which, again, would be like, wow, how do you get away? I mean, look at the pictures, dude. Go to Drudge Report right now. There's nothing left. It burnt to the ground.
So,
I mean, it burnt to the ground, dude. The chimney's left. That's it.
The insurance company right now is going, what property is that? Could you check the file on that? I don't know. They're going to tell the woman, your policy doesn't say SWAT team action on here.
Jeez. It says Christopher Dorner. This is CBS at Los Angeles. Christopher Dorner may be dead following deadly standoff. Although it does say, it says LAPD Commander Andy Smith Tuesday night said that despite earlier reports, Christopher Dorner's body has not been recovered from a burned-out cabin where he was holed up during a deadly shootout. Dorner, who allegedly shot and killed his fourth victim, was barricaded in a Seven Oaks residence for several hours Tuesday afternoon. And the home itself burnt to the ground. So I don't know I don't think they're trying to say that he escaped. I think all they're trying to say is, yo, dog, it's still burning, and we can't get in there to get whatever's left of him out.
Well, I mean, if he burned alive and that thing is still cooking, then they're going to have to wait until the thing is done cooking to get
and then you'll get, whatever's left. Which
and
will probably
the pictures that you're seeing right now, it looks like it was just starting to get dark, like the sun was starting to set.
Yeah, but I mean, do you see how that thing was like? It's burnt to the ground.
Oh yeah, well no, it's already. You can still see with what's left of the daylight that it's already gone. So it's 11:45 here now. So it's got to be almost 9 o'clock over on the West Coast. I wonder if it's out, and they're probably. I guess they're still probably going through it. But if he's not there, if they can't find a body, how the hell did he get out of there? And where are the footprints? And
dude, no way, he's gone.
I mean,
he's dead.
I want to know how they knew he was in that cabin. Though, was it the teams that were doing the random sweeps that came across him in a cabin from one of their sweeps? Because now, if that's the case, they'll be like, you see, there's a justification for violating the Bill of Rights.
I gotta see it.
We found one guy. Hey, to quote Joe Biden, if we save at least one individual, violating millions of people's rights is worth it.
Man, that guy's a hero in my eyes. I mean, he'll go to that far, that extreme to save one person. Boy. Oh, man, my hero.
Yeah. All I got to say is Hey, Joe, I got some questions for you.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, how do you really feel about the whole situation? Come on, no holds barred. I know you're happy. I know you want to.
How do I feel about it?
Yes, how do you feel about it?
Well, how am I supposed to feel about it? It's an outright travesty that people are so damn gullible to believe all this crap that's going on. That all of a sudden, all this crap just suddenly just starts happening. So it's important, it's imperative that we take measures to restrict the rights of legal, law-abiding citizens, so that these criminals won't have access to guns anymore. Because they love laws, they live by them. They can't live without.
Well, from what I understand, there's been a lot more mass shootings that were going to happen, but apparently, as the guy walked in with bullets and grenades and bombs strapped to him and a sickle, and riding on the Green Goblin's little goblin thing flying that shoots bombs and lasers and stuff, he was coming in to cause mass carnage. And apparently, it said gun-free zone and no violence allowed. And he stopped. He said, "Whoa. I didn't know this was a gun-free zone / no violence allowed zone. I apologize." And he left. And he went and raped and pillaged elsewhere where there were tons of guns and everybody could fight back. And it was a happy ending. The end. Never, ever happened, ever, in the history of ever, anywhere, anytime. Ever. Okay? Ever. Bad guys do not care about laws. Otherwise, they would not be called criminals, right? Because they wouldn't be violating laws, right? Hello? Isn't murder already illegal? So does it matter if I murder you with a gun or a butter knife? It's still murder, right? Right?
That's right. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Well, I mean, making the gun illegal doesn't take the evil out of the man's heart. Because that's where evil lurks. Evil doesn't lurk in a Glock. It doesn't lurk in a Smith & Wesson. It lurks.
No, it's nothing but love, baby. It's love.
Hey, dude, you know what? Like the old saying says, God created man, but Sam Colt made all man equal. And I know that the atheists are going to email me. Popeye, that's not true. Okay, it was just a saying. I was just making a point. The story hasn't changed, by the way, as we're sitting here talking and reading. And still, now the only thing that's changed is everybody is saying, no body found yet. We'll see.
Well, of course not. Dude, it's still burning.
We'll see. And I don't condone. I think what really needs to be done is I think this should really spark a real investigation, a true investigation into what happened, right? And from that, hopefully, maybe real change could occur because of the horrific events of what happened, right? But I don't condone the way this guy went about it. And I know there's lots of people that, the media is surprised. I can't believe there's people sympathetic. Really? You can't believe there's people sympathetic? Gee, I can. It couldn't be some of the pissed off people around the country, right, that are tired of having this type of behavior done to them by the very people that are now on the receiving end of it by one of their own. You don't think people, see a wee bit of irony in that, perhaps? But it's okay. you see how it's reversed? You see how very one-sided things are? This is another thing that this whole example serves as. How very one-sided things are in this country. How the media coverage, the way the police conduct themselves, it's all very one-sided. Because if this were not a police officer that was killing police officers, if this was any other situation, the media would be spinning it much differently. Okay, the media would be calling for gun control. And if the guy had said, "I like Bush," or "I liked George Bush" at one point, or "I consider myself conservative," or if he had mentioned the Constitution in a positive way, I'm sure they would have tried to trace it back to gun nuts, but they're not. They're actually afraid to touch things because of what the guy mentioned. You know, he praised Chris Matthews, he praised Anderson Cooper and Wolf Blitzer. I know
it was really a little bit over the top, you know, in some aspects of it, but
you think?
At the same time, you know, judging by what he went through, his personal, his life experience there, especially with the LAPD. I can't blame the guy for feeling the way he did, and I'm sympathetic to how he felt, but you lose all credibility when you start taking out innocent people that had nothing to do with it. You know, when you do that, I'm sorry. That's
what I'm saying. Like I could feel sympathetic towards his plight against the police department.
Right.
And you know how I don't understand how getting fired from the LAPD makes him lose his security clearance, because I would have told my naval command, I would have been like, well, they're obviously full of crap. You know, obviously I got screwed by the thin blue line, but of course I know the military doesn't work like that. And you were a bad boy. You got disciplined by the NYPD. Well, then you're a bad boy. You're no longer a lieutenant. Now you're out, which is, I mean, talk about kicking somebody when they're down. And then they wonder why this guy went nuts. So again, we have to look at what created the monster and caused him to go off on this rampage and everything else. We can't just look at what he did and make it about that. Although that is horrific in and of itself, what created him? We should know that so we can stop it from happening in the future. It's, after all, Joe, it's for the public safety.
Oh, the common good.
Yes. It's for the common good that we know what sets off policemen and makes them go crazy and shoot other cops and civilians.
I love it.
Yes, it's for the children. So,
oh man, I'm feeling it. I am feeling it, baby.
And you know what I think really should come out of this is common sense police laws. We have a large problem with police brutality in this country. Apparently, police brutality was one of the things that precipitated this and caused this whole event. 4 years ago, this event that led to this horrible chain reaction, chain of events that where we are today. So because of that, obviously that police brutality event, right, led to this. We need new policing laws, and therefore I'm going to call Dianne Feinstein, because she seems to be the most proactive member of the legislative body there in Washington. And I'm going to ask her to add a caveat to her assault weapons ban. I'm going to ask her to ban assault police officers. If we can ban assault police officers and arrests and police brutality, then perhaps maybe we won't have any more deaths. I think it's a good idea. So we're going to ban all types of police brutality, arrests, and the dreaded assault police officer. That would be the police officer with the extendable stock and 30-round magazine that comes equipped on his hip. Yes, I'm being facetious and sarcastic.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned. Sound of Freedom with Ryan Brooks is coming up, and I'll catch you all again tomorrow at 10 p.m., and Joe will be live at 9 p.m. We're out.
Sayonara.